Help me hit 1,000 subscribers. I heard the paramedic say her name before I even caught sight of her, but it was the expression on his face that made my stomach twist. It held pity, tension, and something he clearly didn't want to explain to a husband wandering a hospital hallway at 2:17 a.m. "Sir, your wife is stable," he said, "but there's something you should know." Those words sent a wave of ice down my spine. I had no idea that the hours ahead would unravel everything I thought I understood about trust, love, and the woman I'd spent 10 years building a life beside. I couldn't have imagined that what waited behind that thin curtain would hit me so deeply that weeks later, retelling it on my channel would feel like ripping open a wound that still hadn't healed. Let me take you back to the moment when I still believed she cared only for Mia. I'd been asleep when the call came from the hospital. The number glowing on my phone in the dark cast that cold blue light that always seems tied to bad news. "Is this Daniel Reyes?" someone asked. "Yes," I said, already tense. "This is St. George Medical. Your wife has been brought in." "What happened?" I asked, fear rising fast. They refused to share details over the phone, insisting I come at once. I drove through silent streets, the world outside still and empty except for the pounding of my heart. She had told me she was working late, that her team suddenly hit a deadline. I had even texted her around midnight just to check on her, and she sent back a heart emoji, promising she'd be home late. I clung to that tiny digital comfort, like it meant something real, never realizing how empty it truly was. When I reached the ER, the nurse at the front desk gave me the same uneasy expression the paramedic later would. Pity, reluctance, as if I didn't deserve this, yet somehow needed to hear it most. "She's in room 6, the nurse murmured. "Someone is already with her." That phrase struck me wrong. Someone with my wife at 2 a.m? I pushed aside the curtain and stopped cold. She was lying on the bed, pale and drained, and sitting beside her was a man I had never seen before. The moment I stepped inside, he jumped up, guilt flashing across his face like a spotlight. "My wife, Emily," I managed to say. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Daniel, wait. Who is he?" I demanded, my voice trembling despite my efforts. Neither spoke. The silence pressed in so heavily it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. Finally, the man murmured, "I should go." "No," I snapped. "Stay. Someone needs to tell me why my wife is lying here with you at her side." Emily buried her face in her hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red. Pain, exhaustion, guilt, maybe all of it. I felt every bit of it hit me. Before she could say a word, the doctor walked in. He glanced between the three of us, immediately picking up on the tension. "Mr. Reyes," he said, "your wife suffered a severe allergic reaction, strong enough to interfere with her breathing." I stared back at him. Allergic reaction? To what? "She had no allergies." He hesitated, and in that pause, the air in the room grew heavier. "She mentioned she recently developed a sensitivity to latex. The symptoms began not long after." He cut himself off, but the meaning hit me instantly. Latex. And something inside me ripped, slowly, painfully, like a thread being pulled from deep inside my chest. The man spoke softly. "I didn't know she was allergic." "She didn't either," I said, numb. I looked at him fully now. "So you two were—" Emily broke. Right there. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. I didn't think any of this would happen." "You didn't think," I repeated. "Didn't think you'd end up in the ER? Or didn't think I'd find out?" The doctor smartly slipped out once he realized the conversation had shifted far from medical territory, leaving us in a silence that felt like cold steel. "How long?" I asked her quietly. "Please, how long?" Her shoulders sagged. 5 months. The word slammed into me. 5 months. 5 months of lies. 5 months of late nights that I had believed without question. I let out a short, bitter laugh. "And now you're here because you had an allergic reaction while you were with him." She winced. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was lonely. You were distant. Work was overwhelming," and he listened and... "Oh, so now it's my fault you cheated?" "I'm not saying that," she whispered. I wasn't thinking clearly. I turned to the man. You married? He shook his head. No. And I didn't know she was at first. When I found out, I tried to end it. She said things were complicated. Emily covered her face again. I messed up so badly. I wanted to shout, throw something, break anything I could get my hands on. But none of that happened. Instead, a crushing weight settled in my chest. You chose him, I said quietly. And the hospital still called me, your husband, to rush here and help you. The irony tasted like acid. I was the one running through the night. I was the one terrified for her life. And she was the one who had already broken us long before tonight. She apologized again and again, as if repeating the words could mend the damage she'd done over months. But something inside me had already split clean in two. I'm glad you're safe, I told her gently. Really, but I'm done. Her tears came harder. Daniel, please, I can fix this. I can. No, you had 5 months to think about what you were doing. I didn't even get 5 seconds. The other man stared at the floor, buried in guilt. But he wasn't my responsibility. He hadn't sworn anything to me. She had. I'll bring her things tomorrow. I said, stay with him. Stay anywhere. I just can't stay with someone who breaks me and calls a mistake. As I turned to leave, she reached out weakly. Daniel, don't go home alone tonight. I paused long enough to answer. I've been alone for months. I just didn't know it. Then I stepped out of the ER. The automatic door slid open like the world was making space for a version of me I hadn't met yet. One who would never go back to who he used to be. If you're still listening, thank you. This was hard to say then. It's still hard now. But someone out there needs to hear this. Heartbreak doesn't finish you. Betrayal doesn't last forever.